Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our evening session of our one-day national conference. In a moment, I'm going to hand over to Jan O'Sullivan, who will be our MC for the evening. Before that, however, I'd like to update you on a few party matters and on the small issue of 4 by-elections and a general election, which is now a maximum of 6 months away. Last year, at conference, among other things at Ballsbridge, we were preparing for local and European elections. Can I publicly congratulate all our candidates that contested? I have great admiration for everyone who puts their name on a ballot paper and their picture on a poster. They do it so they can serve their community and their country. It is always the case that some will be successful and some, unfortunately, will not win through. To me, and I know to you, they are all winners. They all deserve our thanks. Last year at conference, we also spoke about how we would build a new republic. We spoke about how change was badly needed in our country. We started to put the building blocks together to show what a new republic would look like. This conference expands on those ideas and puts concrete proposals forward to how Labour will change the future and build an equal society. We know the argument of putting the minimum wage up by 30 cent or 50 cent is just a false argument. We know the argument against building social and affordable housing on public lands is a false one. We know the idea that you can get a better start to life because of where you were born needs to be challenged. We know no one should be paid below the minimum wage. We know building social and affordable houses on public land should be the norm. Equal access to healthcare, regardless of your wealth, should be the norm. We also talk a lot about the values and beliefs of our party. I know what they are, and I'm sure you do too. But that doesn't mean everyone does. We need to shout them out loud. Values of decency and fairness, values of equality and accountability. A belief that everyone is equal, no matter their age, their colour, their class. And a belief where inequality does exist, that the state intervenes and ensures equal opportunity for all. We have 4 by-election candidates that share those values and beliefs. Over the next few weeks, our job is to persuade people. Our job is to ask people to join with us. Our job is to make a difference. Electing John Maher in Cork North Central will make a difference. Electing Duncan Smith in Dublin Fingal will make a difference. Electing Joanna Tuffy in Dublin Midwest will make a difference. And electing George Lawler in Wexford will make a difference. A difference that is important. They will be a voice for the marginalised, a voice for working people, a voice for those seeking shelter. It's that important. I ask you to do whatever you can to support them. Can I also take this opportunity to thank a number of people? To the staff of the Mullingar Park Hotel for their help and assistance over the last few days. To the staff of the Labour Party, and in particular to Mags Murphy, who has worked tirelessly to make sure things have run smoothly today. To the members of the Executive Board and the different party sections who worked tirelessly again behind the scenes supporting the party. And finally, to you, the members and volunteers of the party, who give your time without question in support of the party. Thank you. Before I finish up, I am delighted to inform you tonight that 72 hours ago I picked up the keys to the new Labour Party head office. This has been a priority for me and others for the last number of years. I look forward to putting the Labour sign outside our own building again. Finally, can I ask you to put your hands together for our MC of the evening, Jan O'Sullivan, TD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian, and good evening, comrades all, to our evening session. And I think everybody agrees we've had a wonderful day of debate about policy, and we're now here this evening for our final session of the conference. And as always at this time, we do something very special. We give awards for distinguished service to the Labour Party, to the fantastic stalwarts of the party, and I'm delighted to say that tonight we have 5 Distinguished Service Awards, and I'm going to go straight into them because we have a busy agenda. Firstly, John Kelleher. John Kelleher was first elected to Cork Corporation, as it was then, in 1982, and went on to represent the North East Ward of the city for 32 years until 2014. His long career of public service was recognised by his constituents when he topped the poll in the 2009 election. John served as Lord Mayor of Cork in 2002. In addition to his own role as a public representative, John has served as Director of Elections for his constituency colleague Kathleen Lynch for many, many years and has been a key figure in her successes. John is a true gentleman, hard-working and unassuming, and at his happiest out and about on the campaign trail. He's the heart of our party in Cork North Central, the keeper of the Labour flame, and we're delighted tonight to recognise his decades of service to the Cork North Central constituency and to the party, and we're going to present him with this Distinguished Service Award. Now, Finbar Burns is chairperson of the Lower Glanmire Road branch and a party member for 55 years. He's the very definition of a party stalwart, loyal, reliable and incredibly hardworking. There is no doubt that Finbar's loyalty to our values and his hard work on the campaign trail have been key factors in our recovery in Cork City, where we regained a seat in May. Not only is Finbar a great party man, he's also a wonderful family man. Married to Rose, they have 6 children, all of whom have been raised in a strong Labour tradition. And we're indebted to Finbar, by his own definition, a backroom man, for managing the backroom so well in Cork, and in particular in the Lower Glanmire Road. We're honoured tonight to recognise his service with this Distinguished Service Award. And we're keeping it in the family. Rose Burns is Secretary of the Lower Glanmire Road branch and has been a member of the Labour Party in Cork North Central for the last 44 years. Welcome, Rose. Rose has fiercely campaigned for our Labour candidates in every local, national, European and presidential election since joining the party. Most recently, Rose has been a key supporter of John Maher and was integral in John's campaign in May, which saw the return of a Labour representative to the Cork City Council. Rose embodies the best of our party values and, with her husband Finbar, who we've just given an award to, raised her family the Labour way, sending them out to leaflet for candidates at a young age. She doesn't miss a trick when it comes to sharing the party message and is never off duty. She's a woman of incredible warmth and positivity who always has time for a chat, and she makes sure that new members in the constituency feel welcome at meetings and out on the canvas. And we're thrilled tonight to mark Rose's incredible service to the party with this Distinguished Service Award. Now we moved geographically. Robert Arton. Robert Arton, Robbie, has been an active and campaigning member of the party since 1973. He joined when Brendan Corish was party leader and has participated in every election and campaign since that time. Welcome, Robbie. Robbie has held virtually every office in the Wexford constituency organisation, including constituency chair. He's long been the driving force behind his own Gorey branch. Elected to Gorey Town Council in 2004, he served in that body for 15 years. Elected to Wexford County Council in 2009, he represented the people of North Wexford for 10 years, up to the last local elections. Robbie is a tireless community worker, involved in every positive community activity in Gorey, Riverchapel, Courtown Harbour, Coolgraney to Ballygarrett. And Robbie is a true and loyal servant of Labour, and we're going to present him. And finally, Ingrid O'Brien. Ingrid is from New Ross in County Wexford. Ingrid's mother was the first woman chairperson of a town council in Ireland when she was elected Labour chairperson of New Ross Town Council in the 1940s. Subsequently, Ingrid herself served in the same capacity on 2 occasions. Always a champion for Labour and socialist values, Ingrid has led many local campaigns on housing and women's rights. A true follower of the tradition of Connolly, Ingrid has been an advisor and support to countless families and individuals in need of help. Known and respected throughout her New Ross heartland, Ingrid continues to fight for the right to housing, healthcare and education, and against discrimination and injustice. Ingrid. Well done. Take your photograph. Now, we're going to take a picture first, yeah? Picture of the Long Service Awards. Okay, yeah, grand. Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Move the chairs up there. Now, comrades, we're going to honour 2 very, very special people. Fantastic personalities, fantastic public representatives, fantastic speakers who are retiring from national politics, but who are by no means retiring from the Labour Party, because we will not let them. They will continue to serve the party. First of all, we're going to pay tribute to Kathleen Lynch, a fantastic friend. And we're going to show a video in paying tribute to Kathleen.
Well, Kathleen was a true friend of mine, and I genuinely miss her. I miss her company, I miss her sound advice. Whether it was over a cup of coffee or at a discussion, Kathleen thought very carefully about what she had to say, and what she said, she meant. I remember on one instance her going into a meeting with the Taoiseach with her senior health minister. She had won 35 million euros for mental health services, hard won when we had no money. And her senior minister, who was desperately anxious for money, said to her, "You won't be able to spend all of that, will you? I suppose you'll kill me if I say that to the Taoiseach." She said, "You're right. You won't be able to spend it? No, if you say that to the Taoiseach, I'll kill you."
Kathleen, we've known each other for more years than we'd care to count, but these were years of proud campaigning against nuclear weapons, holding vigils marking Hiroshima and Nagasaki, petitioning to support Irish neutrality, campaigning for independent foreign policy, on the picket line more times than I can count, against nuclear warships in Cork Harbour.
And then in 1985, Kathleen was elected for the South Central Ward. So we worked together for many years inside the City Hall. And she was very, as a councillor in the City Hall, she was very hardworking, passionate, committed, outspoken. But also then she could be witty and charming and funny.
She was one person that was able to pass herself, whether it was a king or it was one of the poor that she was talking to. And it's a great trait to be able to do, that you're not nervous or anything else. You could work with Kathleen, but when you heard Kathleen saying, "Come here till I tell you," it was time to step back and let Kathleen say what she wanted to say, because there was no stopping Ginger when she started that.
But she also is very impressive during her time as minister. In a way, I think it's important to emphasise that, because sometimes we think about the jokes and the fun and the liveliness.
Kathleen, the youngest of 11, from Spangle Hill, and, you know, people were saying she's one of our own and we're proud of her.
And I can remember the first time my mum was on, it was RTÉ, and I can't remember the show, but I remember her getting a suit made, a red suit made for the show. It was a big event, and I watched it in my friend's house, and her grandmother was sitting next to me, and her grandmother said, "God, I think she'd put on a bit of an accent for the show. She's still talking like a Northside."
A number of women got together, and I suppose there was 6 or 7 of us married women for equality. Besides Kathleen and myself, all the other 5 women were not from a political background. But what they had was, they were very, very able women. We had a wonderful woman called Margaret Geary, Christine Mostyn, Brenda Casey, Mary McGrath and Sheila Cochrane. It was the biggest payout by the state at the time. 82,000 women benefited nationwide, and the payout at the time, if I remember correctly, was 380 million. And we have to thank Rory Quinn for going wherever he found it. I don't know, but he found it, and the women got their money. And there's a funny story, you know, still if you're in Cork, and when we used to go canvassing, we were called to a house, you know, if you called to a house and they'd say, "Come in, Kathleen, come in, come in, come in." And they'd say, "Kathleen, what do you think of them? They're the equality tiles now, girl." You know, so like there's furniture around people's houses. And you know, about that money, we always credit the women of Ireland starting the Celtic Tiger, because that 380 million went straight back out into the economy, because they spent it on their house, they spent it on their children, they spent it on their community.
Kathleen always looked at the practical application of her politics and where you could apply pressure to do the most good for the people you represented. And she's shown that right from her early years in politics right through to her time as a minister, and is still showing it as a human being.
There was a man came to my mum for our house when we were about 17, 18 years ago, and she got him the house. He was actually terminally ill at the time, and he needed to be closer to the hospital because he had no family, and he needed to be close for treatment. He ended up getting very, very ill around Christmas, and it was actually my son's first Christmas. He was 10 months old, and my mum spent the whole of Christmas Day in Marymount with John, and herself and Catherine decorated his room, and they put lovely Christmas things around. It had a beautiful Christmas smell in the room, and he died Christmas evening just before 12 o'clock with my mum and Catherine next to him. You know, they missed Christmas Day home with their family, which are things people never realise how much they sacrifice, because they refused to leave him die alone. And we all went to the funeral, and she put a notice in every paper in the country because she didn't believe that he didn't have a family. She truly believed there was somebody out there belonged to him. And his brother and his sisters arrived at the funeral. She put a notice in every paper, and they thought he had actually died years previously in England, and he didn't. It was one of the loveliest things I think she's ever done.
I think she works very much from instinct. Her experience from her community and from her own life, personal life, where she saw a lot of challenges, she fought and continues to fight for women in a way that I think is so inspiring to the next generation.
I love telling people she's my mum. I actually find it one of the best things I say. I get such a sense of pride when I say, "Oh, my mum's Kathleen Lynch." Yeah, we're so proud of her.
Barack Obama once said, "I better leave now because it's all downhill from here." And Billy Sparks told me today that I should leave and I shouldn't watch the video, that I should speak before it because it was emotional, and I must admit it is, and that's not like me, as George there will tell you. I'm not a very emotional person. Could I say to everyone that made the video that I'll be eternally grateful. I didn't realise half the things. Liz McManus, Angus, Catherine, Valerie, who is probably the daughter that I fight with most, is probably because we're most alike. But all of those things, thank you to every single one of you. And looking at Sean across the way, knowing that the first election leaflet had his father involved in it, it just shows the continuity of Labour, which is, I think, what draws me to this venue every year. But I want to talk to you about the impossible. And anyone that knows me probably thinks that I'm going to make a very funny speech, and I'm capable of doing that too, I must admit. I think it's one of my more disarming qualities after I've chewed the head off you. But I want to talk about the impossible. And I want to start by listing out things that people said were impossible. The Mother and Baby Scheme, which became a universal scheme rather than a means-tested scheme. Abolishing the status of illegitimacy, lone parent payments, equality and social welfare for married women, which Catherine outlined and which was one of the most tremendous campaigns I've been involved in. Divorce, decriminalisation of homosexuality, liberating access to contraception, marriage equality, giving women control over their own bodies, and the last, but by no means the least, free GP care for the under 6s, which is now going to be increased to under 8s, whereas in fact if the Labour Party were in government it would be now up to under 12s. To all of those who have come this journey with me, and it's a journey that I don't intend to end here. You know, I am not going to be standing for an election again, but I have no intentions of saying that I'm retiring, because I don't intend to. We have people to get elected. And when people say to you that that's impossible, that the next challenge is impossible, that's an opinion. In my case, I usually found it someone else's opinion, and an opinion that was usually proven to be wrong. And attitude is a choice. It's no more than that, it is a choice. And changing your attitude will change the world and will change how you're perceived and how others perceive you and what you can do with them. So impossible is someone else's opinion. And the Labour Party, more than any other party, are the people that don't believe in impossible. They believe in making impossible possible. And we have done it on so many occasions. And I think we should be very proud of that. And there are other challenges ahead, big challenges, challenges in relation to wage inequality, challenges in relation to education and why people don't have the same opportunities as others depending on where you come from. Those are not impossible tasks. We have faced bigger tasks than this. We have done more impossible things than this. And I believe that we can go on to do that. We can go on to do the impossible. And that's why Labour is so needed and so necessary in each society, not just in Irish society, but in every society, because that's where we're at. That's what we look to, the future, the next impossible task, to prove to others that it is possible and nothing is impossible. And until we have a truly equal society, then we cannot afford to let our guard down, and we cannot afford to say we're not participating in this election. And that's why the 4 by-elections are so important, because they are our platform once again to tell people what our vision of the future is and what we think the Irish people not just deserve, but should be entitled to. So for all of that, and for this journey, the journey, you know, when we started off, myself and John Kelleher, and as you can see even from tonight, we were a fearsome duo. John, the gentleman, who wouldn't offend anyone, and me, unfortunately, that he had apologised to lots for. But we did that. We did that. And I think what it did is it made people look up and respect us. It made people look up and say, these are people to be reckoned with. And I want every single Labour Party candidate and every single Labour Party representative
to be in that position, to be people to be reckoned with. And I know that there are people in this hall tonight, young candidates, aspiring candidates, candidates who may be, people who may be thinking about candidature. You will be joining our representatives in Leinster House in the future, and that is not an impossible task. I want to finish by quoting from my favourite philosopher, and I'm not known to have many, but my favourite philosopher, Jean-Luc Picard. You see, there is a generational thing here, I'm afraid to say. And what did Jean-Luc say? That you may go where others fear to go. Live long and prosper.
Can I call Councillor John Maher is going to present Flowers to Kathleen. We really are privileged to have people like Kathleen Lynch in our party. We're also privileged to have the second person who's going to be honoured tonight, and we're in his home territory. And he's a different gender to Kathleen, but he shares an awful lot of her qualities in passion, in personality, in principle, and in the absolute powerhouse that he also is. And that person is the beloved Deputy Willie Penrose. So we're going to call Willie to the stage. We're going to have a video.
Willie is somebody that everybody in the office regarded as an authentic voice for rural Ireland. When Willie spoke in the door, people listened, of all parties, because he spoke not only with passion, but with clear understanding and authority.
I suppose Willie, you know, is unique in politics, I think, in that his background is rural Ireland at its strongest, and yet he was never out of place in the urban scene either.
He has that common touch, really, I suppose, that it's just totally unique in individuals, I suppose. Even as a person himself, like he's like that, you know.
I remember the first time Willie got in, won the seat for the Dáil. His grandmother was with him, and sure, I think even her time, or maybe before that, the Penroses was Labour.
He's powerful empathy with people. As he says himself, he came out of a county council cottage, a family of 10. His father worked in the county council, and he spent his life working and even putting himself through college. He worked on building sites both here and in England.
When Willie was going to the CBS, you would hear a lot talking about Willie Penrose, a grand young lad and very bright.
I met one of Willie's teachers one day. He taught him in secondary school and told me that when Willie was he taught him English. When Willie was going to school, he gave up giving them essays because he said, regardless of what essay he gave, a day, a visit to the zoo, a trip to the seaside, a day in Croke Park, whatever, that Willie Penrose came in with an essay on politics. And everything turned into an essay on politics, even at 12, 13 years of age.
As far back as I remember, our front door is always open, there's always people in our house, and that's all down to his job as a TD, as a councillor.
Willie, I think, preferred the country canvas than the urban canvas. And you'd be driving Willie down a country road, and the next minute you'd be told, stop, stop, stop! And he'd jump out and he was gone. And you'd look around and he'd gone out a gap or in a gate into a field where he knew someone and he wanted to speak to them. They had to be canvassed.
I love the canvas with him. I love the canvas with Johnny as well. But it's tough going.
When he would be coming out, if he knew he wasn't getting the vote, he'd say, no bag of oats there.
Amazing the number of people that, you know, Johnny, Willie's brother is, you know, well, would be there with you, and somebody would pass by and say, how are you, Willie? And the other fellow wouldn't bat an eyelid. He'd say, you know, I might say to Johnny, We called you Willie. Oh, that'd be grand. He said, they'll go home and they'll tell everybody now they're after seeing Willie Penrose. He says, we got 100 mile away.
This is Willie's hometown. This is Ballynacarrigy. And this is the centre where Willie grew up and where it all started. In the village you also have what was the district courthouse and is now Chock Ceol, Ceoltas's building.
The Fleadh wouldn't be coming to Westmeath only for himself and Joe Kinnear. They came up with this idea. He wanted to bring it home. They've brought it home. He has great ideas for it. My sister Niamh is working with him on that.
I often felt when Willie married the right woman, because behind a successful man there's a good woman.
So I think Anne is well able for Willie and has demonstrated that over the years.
She is one in a million. She is the best woman out there. I can't even say how important she is for all of us. Like, she's extremely important for Daddy.
There's not too many like him. And that authentic voice will be hugely missed in Dáil Éireann.
He's one of these people that would probably drive you bananas most of the time. And, you're liable to get phone calls all day or all night.
Particularly during election time. Documentation, if you got multiple letters, one thing definitely, if you were reading it and handing it to him, he'd say, come on, give me that fucking thing, come on, come on, come on. So it was always better to give him the bundle and let him feed you then.
You also give him a wide berth at the swimming pool as well, too, and the clientele that does be with him in the swimming pool.
Dad, I just want to say, sorry I can't be there with you tonight. I just want to say to you, congrats on everything that you've achieved from being first elected to the Dáil in '92. You've always made myself, Ash and Niamh so proud, and of course the Ma as well. I hope you will be able to enjoy your retirement now, even though you'll be busy with the Fleadh coming up, and hopefully you might be able to get a visit out to the UAE at some time next year. Well done again, we're very proud of you.
And just before I hand the mic, I'm going to hand the mic to Willie in a minute, but we are in his home place, and I just want to say myself what a privilege it's been to serve with Willie Penrose, and indeed to be summoned to Ballynacarrigy, because you haven't lived until you've been summoned to Ballynacarrigy, and seeing just how much he is the centre of that community. And I'd only wish I had someone like Johnny who looked exactly the same as me that I could duplicate as well. But I have to say to you that one of the great things about Willie Penrose is the way in which he's respected, and you know, the way in which he is loved and honoured by everybody in the Oireachtas, and I think everybody in the country. And it is that combination of his absolute roots in his community and understanding and interest in every single individual, but also in the way in which he can speak and capture a concept, and you know, the extraordinary brain that is in there, and the way in which he can communicate it. And we're here in his own place, but I know he's going to continue to serve the Labour Party as he has served it all his life. And it's a fabulous honour now to introduce you to Deputy Willie Penrose.
I suppose when I started out on the 8th of October 1969, as a young lad going into the British Legion hut in Ballynacarrigy, brought up by my father, I didn't think I'd reach this point. That 50 years later I'd be telling you I'm getting ready to go. And to say that no man is an island, and nowhere is this more evident, I suppose, than in political activity. I was lucky over the past 5 decades to have great loyal people who steadfastly stood by me. You know, as long as I espoused true Labour policies and values. I could not renege upon what was won by people like my grandmother in 1913 lockout. I just saw that picture up there. And that's the foundation stone, and woe betide anybody who contemplates for a moment denigrating the essential values which have equality at its core in the Labour Party. I was lucky. I was born in, as Pat Collins or someone said there, And Peter Donnan never said a word. Peter, I'm glad to see Peter here with his wife, Bridget. Bridget's after coming through a tough health battle and she's won it. But I never thought, being the eldest of 10 in a council house, what flabbergasted me today is that local authorities are not able to build local authority housing, social and affordable housing. It absolutely disgusts me, because we were very lucky in 1959-60 to get a local authority house. There was no toilet, only an outdoor toilet. There was no running water, which we didn't get until 1971. We hand dug it down for the town. And that's why we never had any problems as a working class family paying for things, because we valued them. We knew they were important. And that's why I supported those charges at the time, much to my, I suppose, political cost, like so many people. But you should never look for short terms. It was a bit ironic the other day to hear a TD who fought so vigorously against the imposition of water charges, having the neck and audacity and the irony to tell Irish Water to spend more money on putting in place. So when you had to carry it across the field in a bucket, you didn't mind paying €5 a month or whatever it was in charges. You know, I think I was lucky as 6 brothers and 2 sisters, 7 brothers and 2 sisters. Well, Johnny, yeah, well, he's a clone of mine, so we works it. I remember one day coming down the road there in Mullingar, and this woman ran over and thanked me for going to the funeral. And I copped on fairly quickly and says, well, Mary, sure, of course I have to go to the funeral. So I rang Johnny like a shot. He says, no, I attended that funeral last week. So that worked well. We always had a great thing. The funny thing is my mother come from a Fianna Fáil family, and she rebelled against them. She was a very wise woman. And she was the driving force. She was the driving force. I was lucky to marry somebody that can up the road. I didn't go too far, only 4 miles up the road. And Ashley and Niamh and Deirdre, they have been a tower of strength. And that's why no person can do this thing on their own. You have to have your family behind you. You have to have your uncles and your aunts. And, and of course all the branch members in Ballycarriga since October '69 and throughout the constituency, who in the early 80s reposed their trust in you. And when people put their trust in you, it's not something to be abused or lost. Now, there's lots of people, John Martin, now with John Joe Cummins and all those people, and he's here tonight. And I know Peter Donlan was a faithful director of elections since 1984. And Peter did suffer health problems because of me. He had stomach ulcers. Because he used to suffer because, and he was lurid those Rennies there. Bridget, I think, used to keep him lined up. And I used to jump out of cars. I jumped over a moving car one day and jumped across the field. And Peter then got into a tizzy because he thought I was lost on the road. So then there was all those people. And then there was my son and Des Sheridan and a break of the lads back because we're canvassing some estate. And Des knocked at the door and an ass put his face out across the door. And I says to Des, canvass you. I'm sure you wouldn't know. You might vote sometime. But no, but that was some great stories, and but I was always driven by a sense of desire to remedy injustice. I hated injustice, and there's no reason why somebody from a working class background cannot go to university. That's why we have to get rid of fees and those charges and all of those things that spend money. And I was very proud. I was very proud in 1995. I was very proud in 1995 to propose the abolition of fees. And it took a long time for us to argue to get that through. But the peculiar aspect of Irish life, and I look back on it, is the woman who did that, Niamh Brannock, was turfed out in the next election. So that says more about the Irish electorate than it does about the Labour Party. But the Labour Party did the right thing to make sure that people could get elected. And I have to, I'd say in conclusion that democracy is something very precious, and it should be cherished and protected. shouldn't be abused or disregarded or prejudiced in any way. It's vital that we stay in it and not engage in activity that undermines it. I look askance at the last number of years at people in political positions engaging in platitudinous nonsense or promising free lunches and free rides for everyone in the audience, with no basis or undertaking or understanding that there are no such thing. Someone's gain is someone else's pain, but it must be achieved in a fair and balanced way, as otherwise democratic politics get a bad name. I have never ever resorted to what I call the lowest level of denominator. I would rather lose an election rather than engage in that type of thing. Be constructive, be truthful, and in that way, never gain an advantage on a false promise that cannot nor could it ever be implemented. I want to say, I was delighted when Dennis Leonard was elected with Johnny at the local elections. I want to compliment Margaret Sweeney, Mark Scally and Lorraine Scally for the excellent job they did in the local elections here. And not success on this occasion, but they laid the foundations for success in the future. To my colleague and friend Alan Mannion, he can rest assured we won't be found wanting. Once he hits the road and canvasses every house, don't pass a house, never put a designation or political name on a house. Go into every house and we'll be behind you in making sure that the Labour seat is going to be retained here in Longford Westmeath. And thank you all for it.
We're going to invite Isa McAuliffe to make a presentation for Willie. Now, we are coming close to the time of our leader's speech, and I'm going to hand the stage over, as the torch is handed on from our two wonderful colleagues, to one of our, again, most prized younger candidates, who is up in the northwest. We are a party of the nation, and I'm particularly pleased to be introducing Nessa Cosgrove to you tonight. And Nessa is going to come and introduce the party leader. She is standing in Sligo Leitrim in the general election, and she is one of those wonderful candidates now that we have right around the country, including our 4 by-election candidates, as I call them, the Fab Four, John, Joanna, George and Duncan. And standing in Sligo Leitrim for the general election, selected today, will be Councillor Nessa Cosgrave, and I'm now going to hand over to Nessa.
Thank you, John. And it's an absolute honour to be standing on the stage after Kathleen Lynch and Willie Penrose and Jan O'Sullivan. It's an absolute privilege for me to be here tonight. Friends and comrades, good evening. I'm Nessa Cosgrove. I was a first-time candidate in the Sligo elections in May in the Sligo-Strandhill area. It was powerful, and it was a privilege to stand for Labour, just as it is an absolute honour to be a privilege to be standing up here tonight. As a Labour candidate, I think that we need a new generation of people involved in politics in Ireland. New blood with new ideas to keep our thoughts fresh and relevant. And I'm delighted that Labour got so many first-time candidates elected in May, and many more candidates came so close to being elected. These politicians who are now proudly bringing new ideas and new energy to councils all over the country. I believe that Labour's message is relevant in every county in Ireland. The results of both of our recent referendums and the outstanding vote for the legendary Michael D. Higgins show that Irish people want progressive policies and want progressive politicians. We as a society have to harness that desire for social progress, and I believe that Labour is the only party that can do this. Labour's values of social justice and equality have been my values for as long as I can remember. And this is why I became involved in our local Labour Party in Sligo and Leitrim, where my friends and comrades have been proudly flying the Labour flag for generations. My own background is in youth and community work. I've been working with the Sligo Leitrim Home Youth Liaison Service as a youth worker for the past 15 years. I love my job. I love working with young people. I love the energy I get from them and the honesty that they bring. I learn something new every day. And every day I'm in awe of the level of resilience that children and young people display in the face of often very extreme adverse situations. A large part of my job is working with young people to figure out together how they can overcome some of the difficulties that they are facing every day. Sometimes this is possible, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the system of national rules and national agencies seem to be impenetrable. The frustration with this system has got me thinking about politics. We need change in local and national policies to really deal with some of the problems that are affecting the young people and their families that I work with. For example, I get so frustrated and saddened when I see a vulnerable young person that I've been working with start to feel really good about themselves and about their future. They have felt supported by their local youth and community services, and many of these young people have been involved in these services for years. But then he or she turns 18 and they are cast adrift into the bureaucratic nightmare of the adult health and welfare services. It makes no sense that public agencies expect vulnerable young people to magically turn into perfectly functioning adults who are expected to cope, no problem, with life's everyday challenges, all just because they've turned 18. We need to change this. We need to make sure that these young people continue to have the offer of help and support well into their 20s, until they're genuinely able to manage on their own. And these are the kind of system changes that Labour has always achieved at national and local level. More and more people realise that Labour needs the kind of serious politicians that the Labour Party produces, who have the will and the drive to achieve change. There is no more a serious politician than our party leader, Brendan Howlin. He is a man who has dedicated his life to serious politics. Firstly as a county councillor and mayor, and since 1987 he's been proudly representing the people of Wexford as the TD. And he's never forgotten his roots, regardless of what positions he's held nationally. Even before his political career, Brendan entered public life as an organiser of the massive protests against a planned nuclear power station at Carnoustor Point in Wexford. And Brendan has continued to attend many protests over the years. But unlike others, Brendan's work does not stop at just protesting. He's a doer, and that is what I mean by a serious politician. At a time when politics in the United States and the UK has exhibited the worst form of populism and undermining of democracy, Brendan is someone who embodies experience and seriousness about serving the people and doing his utmost, sometimes in the hardest of circumstances. I remember when I was studying social science in UCC many years ago, Brendan was Minister for Health and had just published a new Charter for Health, Shaping a Healthier Future. As young social science students, we were all massive fans of this. It was one of the most progressive, relevant and important documents that had been published at the time, and I remember him getting an awful lot of stick from it from the more conservative elements of our society. But he still pushed on. Brendan drove the public appoints reform process to end cronyism and have officials appointed based on track record and merit rather than who they knew. All through his career, he sought to make sure that everyone is properly served by the state agencies. Brendan is someone who believes in public service. He believes that people have equal rights and entitlements. And for all of his career, he has fought for equality and justice. Brendan is the driving force behind Labour's agenda to build an equal society. Agus mar sin, is mór an ordam, a gléach orov, ma camaraderie agus ma corda, to join with me in welcoming to the stage our party leader, Mr. Brendan Howlin.
Thank you, Nessa. Thank you, Nessa. Thank you all for being here in Mullingar. Mullingar is something of a success story. Too many of our towns are in decline, but Mullingar has kept its vibrancy. They even managed to beat Wexford to host the Fleadh Cheoil in 2020. They told me in Wexford we didn't have Willie Penrose. Friends, comrades, Our country is at a crossroads again. Labour wants everyone to share our country's wealth. Others do not. The choice at the next election is as simple as that. We all know streets with boarded up shops. We all know communities where people desperately need jobs and where drugs wreck people's lives. Labour wants everyone to be included. Labour restored the minimum wage, introduced stronger protection for the most vulnerable workers, who are often young people, migrants, and women. Labour brought in the equality laws that outlawed discrimination at work. And Labour will ensure that modern laws are enacted to protect people against hate crimes, including on social media. Labour was the driving force in government that brought about marriage equality and the repeal of the Eighth Amendment. Comrades, it's worth reflecting in the week that Gay Byrne passed away that in his lifetime on air, Ireland went from a country dominated by Catholicism, nationalism and conservatism to becoming a society at ease with diversity, internationalism and liberal social values. Gay Byrne talked about how the Late Late Show was criticised in the 1990s. Bishops and county councillors wrote in calling for him to be fired, some that he should even be jailed. How things have changed. Labour played a central role leading that change. Labour politicians got those letters too, and the threats. But Labour kept pushing on the equality agenda, and Ireland is the better because of it. Ireland is now at a genuine crossroads. Economic inequality is growing. The number of multimillionaires and billionaires is growing all the time. Yet generations of young people can't get a permanent job, don't have pensions, and likely will never own their own homes. The current economic model is delivering less shared prosperity year after year. So the next big change, our challenge, has to be economic equality. Alongside that, there's another issue I want to address tonight. That is the new toxic racism that has entered our politics. Let's call it what it is. From protests against asylum seekers through to a presidential candidate making disparaging comments about travellers, long-standing taboos have been broken. We've seen it happen elsewhere, but it doesn't have to happen here. Labour will stand for equality and against the hate speech that is poisoning society. And leadership is needed on this issue. But the Taoiseach has sent mixed messages at best. 1 in 8 people living in Ireland today was born in another country. They're now part of our society. 1 in 7 of our children and young people has one or both parents from another country. And 1 in 20 are visibly different from an African or an Asian background. These are our children, our people, our equals. But we won't have the same quality of life unless we end the inequality in our economy. Many of those working for low wages are foreign nationals. Everyone should be paid a living wage. We must We must, and only Labour will, end exploitation of migrant workers. Labour has a vision of an equal society. Leo Varadkar talks about a republic of opportunity. What does that even mean? There is no real opportunity when 1 in 4 jobs is low paid by international standards. There is no real opportunity when rents are allowed to go up 4% every year while wages fall behind. There is no real opportunity when childcare costs more than you can earn in a working life full time. For 3.5 long years, we've endured Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil's partnership government, propped up by an assortment of independents. The result has been record levels of child homelessness, massive overspending on state project buildings, and the appalling treatment of women in the cervical check scandal. Above all, they've completely failed to share the economic recovery across our people. Fianna Fáil has sat on the opposition benches, but to be honest, they're just taking up space. They haven't provided any real opposition. They take the high moral ground, but when it comes to the crucial votes, they abstain. And this allows Fine Gael to limp on. There's nothing new in me or any other Labour Party leader saying that Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil share the same ideology and propose the same policies. But I hope at last, the last 4 years have shown everybody that in fact they are the same. Only Labour will deliver a massive programme of state-led home building. Only Labour will invest in local primary health care based on medical need, not on your ability to pay. Only Labour will challenge the top earners, corporations and banks to pay their fair share of tax. Labour offers a real alternative. Our movement is European democratic socialism. And if you like what you see in progressive countries like Finland and Sweden and the Netherlands, that is what building an equal society looks like. And it is our duty to work seriously with other parties, to explain what our policies can deliver, and to champion our unique vision for equality in Ireland. And that's why I ask anyone voting for a Labour candidate, obviously I want the number 1 for Labour, but to continue your preferences for progressive candidates, including from the Green Party, the Social Democrats, as well as progressive independents. It's long overdue that we build a progressive alternative to the 2 right-wing parties that have dominated politics for too long. It's a fact that fewer than half the people who voted in 2016 voted for right-wing parties. The people are ready for something else. People across the island have demanded equality and social progress. The referendums on marriage equality and repealing the 8th showed the majority in nearly every constituency want social progress. The presidential election showed huge support for the values of Michael D. Higgins, our values, in every constituency. We need to harness that support again. Labour wants an equal society in Northern Ireland too. We will support genuine Labour politics that crosses the sectarian divide. We will work with Labour-minded politicians from all communities to help bring this about. We'll support politicians who turn up for work in Stormont and Westminster. And I want to fight for Northern Ireland's interests. And I want to welcome colleagues from Northern Ireland who have joined us here this evening. It was Labour politicians who delivered abortion rights and marriage equality in Northern Ireland too. And I want to thank Labour MPs Stella Creasy and Armagh-born Conor McGinn, whose amendments made this happen. The next challenge for Labour in Ireland is the 4 by-elections. In less than 3 weeks, the people will vote in Cork North Central, in Dublin Fingal, in Dublin Midwest, and in my own constituency of Wexford. In these by-elections, you'd wonder why Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are bothering to run separate candidates. Because they're not different from each other. The real choice is between progressive candidates who will deliver real change versus conservative candidates who want to defend the way things are. For those who can vote in the by-elections, I would ask you to give your first preferences to Labour's John Maher in Cork North Central, to Duncan Smith in Dublin Fingal, to Joanna Tuffy in Dublin Midwest, and to my friend George Lawler in Wexford. Let's send a clear message that the current partnership government is a failure. Vote for real change on Friday the 29th of November. That change, or the change I would really love to see, is a government led by progressive TDs, committed to equality and committed to rooting out the causes of inequality. If we can't have that, progressives always have to weigh up whether we can best serve the people from inside government or from opposition. The personalities involved in Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael are irrelevant. What matters is, can we deliver real change? So let me be clear, Labour will not support any party to form a government, including from the opposition benches, unless they agree to implement our core policies. We will negotiate our full manifesto based on our strength in the next Dáil, but we will not negotiate our core demands. And we have 5 of them: on work, on housing, on healthcare, on children, and on climate. Labour wants a living wage for all workers. That's at least 2/3 of the average wage for everyone. We in government, Jed Nash created the Low Pay Commission for minimum wages to be based on hard evidence, not on political goodwill. Labour will also legislate for strong trade union recognition, a right to flexible work, and binding collective bargaining rights. We want a cap on rents and a rent freeze until we have built enough homes for our people. We have a truly ambitious plan to build 80,000 homes. We froze rents for 2 years, showing that it can be done, while this partnership government has allowed an annual increase of at least 4%. Labour will redirect health funding into local communities. We will deliver quality primary care and GP care services based on medical need, not on people's ability to pay. We'll take the pressure off hospitals and reduce overcrowding and waiting lists. In the worst of times, it was Labour that insisted on free of charge GP care for the under 6s. In the worst of times, we found the money to build health care centres across the country. From home help and carers through to disability and mental health, we can meet our people's needs without the agony of long waiting times. Labour wants to create a new childcare for working parents scheme to allow parents to work full-time who otherwise could not afford to do so. Childcare shouldn't cost more than a person's take-home pay, but that's the reality for thousands of parents. Labour would make sure that parents, especially women and lone parents, don't have to choose between their families and their jobs. On the critical issue of climate, Labour will create a €2 billion fund to drive the necessary economic change using the power of state enterprises. We need to invest in Bord na Móna, in the ESB and Quilta, especially here in the Midlands, where Fine Gael has let good jobs fall away, most recently in Longford and West Offaly. State enterprise will be the engine that powers a new industrial revolution to halt climate change. And Labour will fund local authorities to deliver a massive retrofitting programme to reduce people's energy costs. We can create thousands of sustainable jobs for the next generation. So, Labour's 5 key demands will form the foundation of our manifesto at the next general election, and it will distinguish Labour from all other parties. Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are not progressive parties. Leo Varadkar has talked about warmer winters being a benefit of climate change. This shows either incredible ignorance or a serious contempt for science. It's certainly an insult for those across the globe already suffering. We have 1 generation to fix this problem. It's time to get real. The government's current plans are simply inadequate. You can't trust Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil on wages. The only reason that this government has raised the minimum wage is because of Labour's low pay commission. Regina Doherty is prepared to postpone the minimum wage increase that was due next January, using Brexit as the excuse. And in case anybody has forgotten, it was Fianna Fáil who cut €1 off the wages of the lowest paid workers. €2,000 a year from the lowest paid in our state immediately after the crash. And of course, we went into government and first thing we did was restore that. Raising the wages of the lowest paid does not cost jobs. You can't trust Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil on housing. This government has built a rack renting system rather than a system of rent control. They allowed so-called controlled rents to go up 4% every year, which is above the rate of increase of people's wages. This makes no sense, except to pretend to care about renters while forcing adults to live with their parents or to commute long distances to work every day. Fianna Fáil created the housing boom. They also created the bust. And there's no evidence that they've learned any of the lessons from that. On childcare, this government prefers a private model propped up by state subsidies. But childcare in Ireland is still 3 times the cost of the European average, which stops many people, working people, from actually taking up a job. That won't change unless government policy changes. For all these reasons, I have no confidence in the current partnership government. Brexit isn't going to go away. We'll still be talking about it in years to come. But Brexit can't therefore be used as an excuse for a do-nothing Dáil with a fix-nothing government. At the first opportunity, we actually need a general election. and a real change of direction. People see the value of political parties who don't want to protest, but who want to make a real change in people's lives. Our new team of fantastic councillors is already doing that at local government level. We also need to revisit some of the decisions forced on Ireland during the economic collapse. The age for the state pension is due to increase to 67 in 2021. There is no need for Ireland to have a higher pension age than other European countries. The social insurance fund that pays for pensions will have a surplus of nearly €4 billion by the end of this year. That is why Labour will campaign to stop the rise in the pension age to 67 for the lifetime of the next government. And that's a pledge I make tonight. We've admitted when we got things wrong, but Labour is the only party who is determined to put things right. We also need to protect our democracy in this era of fake news. We need to update our laws because money spent online on ads does manipulate elections. And our democracy is not for sale. Twitter has stopped political advertising, and Labour would ban political advertising during an election on all social media platforms, including on Facebook and Instagram. It is also important to properly fund public service broadcasting. We need to maintain a vibrant, independent RTE. Ireland, we are ambitious for our country. But we can only build an equal society if we build a fair, dynamic economy. There are real challenges facing us: protectionism in world trade, overdue reforms in international taxation, Brexit, and climate change. These challenges will force Ireland's economic model to change. It's 30 years since Labour led the last substantial review of our national economic strategy. Let's do it again. Let's do it to create the jobs of the future. Let's take carbon out of the economy, reduce our dependence on foreign investment, and harness the potential of technology for the public good. Let's create an economy that delivers for everyone. Labour is committed to an economic model that creates enough wealth to be shared by all. European social democracy offers a real alternative. It works best in the Netherlands, in Finland, and in Sweden. Let's add Ireland to that list. Let's restore the promise that each generation will do better than the one that passed before. Labour has a vision of an equal society. We have the policies and the people to make it happen. If you want real change at the by-elections, vote Labour. If you want real change at the next general election, vote Labour. This is your society. This is your future. Together, we can build an equal society. Good evening, Margaret. Well done, George.
I'm in the black again. Can't make take it back again. We can just pretend